This is Cadillac Unscripted on 107.9 CDY. Every week at this time, right here in this radio station, at 8:30 in the morning, Independent Bank brings you a half hour of local conversation here. And Katie is back with me for the first time after being off for a couple of weeks. And it's so nice to see you again.
Good to see you, my friend.
And we've got one of our heavy hitters, one of our frequent flyers on the program back with us today. Who do we have, Katie?
Mr. Mike Kelso. He is the executive director of the Cadillac Area YMCA. Welcome, Mike.
Thank you. Good to be back.
So I want to talk a little bit about, it's spring. We all are trying to get healthy, and I know the Y is instrumental in that piece for Cadillac. And it sounds like you've got additional outreach to try to make everybody healthy if they're ready. So I want to start talking about the WEX. I want to start talking about what you got going on.
Yeah, with the WEX Express. Yeah. So we've utilized the WEX Express, our public transportation here in Cadillac, Wexford County, since we opened, predominantly to bus middle school and high school students to the Y after school for our Drop-In Teen Center program. And we have them coming by the dozens, especially in the heart of the winter and early spring. But we realized there were still some needs out there, especially with people's personal costs getting higher, that we want to keep people engaged at the Y and get new opportunities. So we decided as of April 1st, we're going to test it for 3 months, but hopefully we'll keep it going after that all rides to and from the Y on WEX Express are free for teens, adults, seniors, everybody to and from. So we think that'll do a couple different things for people. One, I think there's a whole set of teenagers that do not come to the Y after school because they don't have a way to get home.
Right.
So we hope we'll pick up more of them. And a lot of our senior fitters and folks that we see often who can't have transportation, don't have transportation, whether it's an ability or a financial barrier. And some of our people with disabilities that are out there that we already serve, we think there's more of them that we could if we reduce that transportation barrier. So it's just been going a couple weeks, but so far so good. We'll see what the results of it are here after a month and go from there.
Right. A factor that you didn't mention that I think is very real for those of us over 50, Rich, is weather.
Well, wait a minute.
Weather.
What did you just say?
Well, I was just mentioning.
As if you're not over 50 yourself?
Let the group
I thought we
pass.
just established she was recently 40. Recently is a loose term.
I'm just
I just heard the way she said that. She
No.
said over 50.
It wasn't framed.
Rich. Just the way you said it.
I just thought I'd, mention that to us about.
Okay.
No, okay,
Fine,
I'll
fine.
throw myself.
Nobody
into
else
this.
heard it, I'm sure.
Oh, sure. Well, so my point, I think, is, don't you remember, like, growing up and having Grandma and Grandpa talk a little bit like, well, I don't know, look at the weather. And
Yeah.
when you're young, you're fearless. So you're like, what, the weather? Who cares? You know what?
about the weather,
Yeah,
right.
guess what? The weather matters now. Snowstorms and big wind and icy roads. And no, thank you. So
Yeah.
get people there in bad weather, too.
Yep. Yeah. Transportation's a challenge in a rural community, right? We're
is.
very lucky to have WEX Express, and it's great for us. They've been great partners since we've started, and it's really economical for us. For the Y to own a bus and take care of it and to have the right qualified staff would be quite a lift for us. So we're happy to keep utilizing them and at their service at their great rate. So
It's a partnership.
Yeah.
It's a partnership. Years ago when the committee formed, and it was one incredible board of directors with Ann Zadrowski and these, the Riems, people were just so passionate about bringing a beautiful new Y to Cadillac. Mary Dillon, of course, as our quarterback. But I can remember conversations over coffee where people wanted the Y to be walkable, and it wasn't feasible, meaning, from downtown neighborhoods. I get it. It wasn't feasible. And then when you look at the partnership with the Evergreen Lease and this kind of stuff with Baker and what went down there with the partnership between Dan and Kelly, and I know still a strong partnership, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
So things happen. It all plays out, Rich. And so now anybody can get to the Y, pretty much.
Yes. Yeah. There shouldn't, be any barriers to that, especially with the essentially wide open, rides for all for WEX Express with us. So
Love it. Question: how is your membership? How's that going?
we're as high as we've ever been. We thought we kind of hit records in our recovery in 2023, and we bumped up again in 2024. I'm like, all right, we're going to plateau now. 2025, we're still bumping up. March was our biggest month ever, and that constitutes 1,550-ish households, so that's about 3,800 people that are members.
Wow.
And that's just a part of our service. There's lots of people we serve that aren't members, just through various programs or community members on day passes or free passes, that type of thing. So yeah, it's the need keeps going. We've shifted a bit, and it's just following our community demographics. Our growth areas have been in adult and seniors, and families and youth have kind of plateaued, but that's where our demographic population of the market is too.
Sure.
So yeah, but the needs, I would say, of the youth are greater than they used to be in the last few years. So that's probably been our challenge that we keep chewing away at and keep trying to come up with new things to do.
Mm-hmm. Rich, funny story. Both of my kids were daycare children. And as you know, I have this propensity to let cookies and cakes and this type of thing. And part of the culture at the Y is of health. So I got sat down and talked to by, a 6-year-old about how we couldn't be sending pizzas and cupcakes and cookies
and cakes that can stop a door.
Cakes that can stop.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's not how it's supposed to go. So we're gonna need to convert to healthy
That's
snacks.
not lunch.
That's not like no. But I mean, that's so great at a young
Yeah.
age. Can we talk about other youth services for folks that don't know about? I mean, I know you've got a mentoring program for your teens.
Yeah, so we're definitely known in the community and solidified as our after-school drop-in teen center program, mostly middle school and young high school kids. It's a great mix of what the youth want and what the parents want, right? So parents want their middle schoolers especially to have someone looking after them, but they're really too old for daycare now. And as they
Sounds like my two.
yes.
You see my two there every day.
Yep.
Okay.
But as they're becoming teenagers, they want independence.
Mm-hmm.
So it's that good mix of they get to come and go as they please throughout the building in different programs, but they're supervised, they're mentored. And so that's for the general population of teens. We have a program that spins off that is our Teen Impact program, and that's by referral from basically any human service agency, worker, educator. And it's basically a life skills facilitated support group led by mentors, and they go over everything from decision making to control and just all the tough things that happen in teenage life. It's the toughest years of life, in my opinion. Everyone needs help through it.
You're not wrong.
Yeah,
You are not wrong.
Rich sees them every day.
Oh yeah.
And it's, kids get referred, or they may have actually been in trouble a lot for that age, or maybe they're not in trouble, but somebody's worried about them based on some challenges that they have in their life, and they see that they need to be lifted up and have their self-care life skills elevated a bit to catch up with the idea of them not just getting through their teen years more successfully, but setting them up for more success as they become adults, because it's not too long, down
Right.
the road once you're teenagers. So, and that idea came actually from former Superintendent Paul Liebenow years ago. We've been doing it for over a decade. And he got together with us and some other human service agencies, and he's like, I see these kids that struggle, and they may go off out of the community someplace for a program for a short time, but they come back into their same challenging environment. We need something ongoing and local to see them through their years. And that's what we've really tried to establish. And I've seen it really work. And we've had kids that were their go-to people for that time when they start, and they may leave because they think they got it all figured out, and then they have another difficult thing in their life, and all of a sudden they're back at our door because they realize, oh, that was a good place. They were consistent in our life, and they had good things for me. And so even though we aren't necessarily happy to see what maybe has happened again that they need to come back to us, but they're happy they see us as the place to come back to. And
Right.
get support.
They feel comfortable and safe and not judged. And I'm smiling because someone I'm very close to moved to Traverse City. And just recently I was with Paul and Bonnie, who now, live in the Traverse City. They live in different places, but a lot of their time is spent in Traverse City. And I smiled on my way home because my phone pinged, and it was Bonnie, and it was Easter services at this church, their church, just so you know, please let this young person know they're welcome. They haven't stopped with all that.
Yeah.
They've been retired for years, and they're still right at it, mentoring people, and soft spot for young people. And I don't think that ever goes away. I think once you're committed to kids like that, like both Paul and Bonnie were, the legacy moves on, it carries on, I should say. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we talk about fundraising? How's it going? Do you wish you did more fundraising? Do you need to do more fundraising?
Yes, all those questions. So we are working on some new things, and it's evolving a bit. So we're a nonprofit that we earn a lot of our income through our service, right? Membership and program. But we definitely have a need and for grants and for donated dollars. The grant world's been pretty high the last few years, which is nice, but that's also dangerous. We don't like to have a huge part of our income based on grants, and it's got
You don't want to depend on it.
No.
Yes, right. And I'll say, yeah, we've gotten kind of heavy on the last couple of years, but we know the other shoe's going to drop, and we plan on it going down this year, and we're seeing that happen. So we're trying to boost our fundraising efforts and get back to kind of the old school relational way of face-to-face asks through a traditional annual fundraising campaign. We've been very event-driven of recent years, and we're continuing with all those events that we've done, because that isn't just fundraising, that's getting your message out there and getting an audience from the masses and providing some service or entertainment in a lot of cases. But so we're working on that right now. So the public's going to start seeing that over the month of May. We're working on getting our campaign teams together right now and get that kicked off at the end of the month. For two things. One, we want to tell the story, because we feel like we did some feasibility study stuff this summer that we're not telling the story enough in the right way, and that just takes some one-on-one conversations more than just blasting general things out.
Okay.
So
Is the facility large enough?
some days it is and some days it isn't.
Okay.
I would say in our busiest months, which would be October through March, a good portion of the day it's not. And that was what we did a feasibility study on this past summer, was for possible expansion. And we didn't quite get enough positive response to make us go for a multi-million-dollar campaign. And part of that was we haven't told our story enough in the right way to the right people. So that's this annual campaign renewed effort. The long-term benefit of that is to get us back in the habit of that face-to-face storytelling asking, which should set us up to do a capital campaign in the future. So we just couldn't quite pull the trigger on it as quick as we wanted to.
Describe what kind of story you need to tell to make that happen.
Yeah, so what's great about the Y is we do a lot of things for a lot of different types of people. That's also our downfall sometimes, because it's a little overwhelming and it's a little hard to go, well, what is this person's experience versus this person's experience, and what's this potential supporter's passion that we can hit of all the things that we do, right? Our first priority for everyone who works at the Y and volunteers is to serve people. And we do that all the time, and every day we're thinking about that. The next step is to bring other people along that want to help you serve people and serve people better and more people by supporting you. That's harder to get to. Right? So we've got to be better at telling our story of the effects on individuals, so individual stories, and the effects on certain populations of need and where the growing needs are with certain populations. And so, one example of that is with our teens. We're the go-to place for mass amount of teens after school. We saw their needs as far as mentorship and just mental health just go through the roof the last 4 years.
Absolutely.
This is Rich's story too.
Yes, yep, he knows it too. And so
100%.
we're just keep wrestling with that of what more can we do. And honestly, we're out of space to do more in-depth things because we have so many kids coming to us. It's a little just kind of survival mode with them for the first couple hours because there's so many of them. And that Teen Impact program that I spoke about is where we can go deeper and specialize. We just need more space to break out and do that. Even that program, half the time we're stepping out in the hallway to do an activity, which is not the ideal place because your kids are being vulnerable and it's kind of an intimate setting and you're going to be comfortable. We're doing it in the preschool classroom, which isn't cool if you're a teenager, but we get them to buy in and they come and they do it. It's not the ideal environment. So
if money was no object, it would be a bigger facility.
Yes, yeah. I mean, we have a plan that we would add 9,000 square feet, double our teen center space, add space to our child care to make us more have more options of how we operate that more efficiently, because we do a lot of we have one little person potty. We have to march them down the hall to use the other ones, and marching preschoolers down the hall is an endeavor every single time you do it.
Especially when they're trying to hold it.
Yes, that's right. And then
They
would
are
also
so cute marching down the hall.
yes, they are. And then we do our lifeguard classes in a room smaller than this studio, and folks can't see it, but it's not big.
No.
So we need a classroom training space. And those are things that fulfill our mission that we could do more with, but also don't necessarily pay for themselves in a big way. Mm-hmm. So we'd also expand our fitness space to have a more dedicated group exercise room and more of the functional training weight area space. And then that should help us increase our membership revenue to help support all those things too.
So where would that 9,000 square feet go, Mike? Are you going to bust out the wall and go east, or what would be the thought there?
So we have lots of options. So we're not in a downtown tight area. We have wide open spaces.
You're not confined, right?
We're not confined. We're confined by convenience in a few areas, but so our initial thought, we haven't had this architect's drawn, just a really good napkin drawing, I would say. So when you pull up to the Y, you've got the sidewalk, a little bit of green space, and then the building. We would essentially bump that building out across the whole front out to the sidewalk, and that at about 9,000 square feet.
Okay.
Yeah, because there's other drawbacks of bumping out other areas.
Gotcha.
So.
And the whole idea when that building was built, it was purpose built to give you room to expand eventually.
Yes.
Which is nice.
And
yes.
Just for a concept of capacity. So the market study, the business plan, all that stuff that happened in the 2006, 7, 8 timeframe, and we opened in 2009, was based on serving 1,200 households through membership. We're serving over 1,500 through membership.
Okay.
So that tells you we're kind of at that critical mass of perceived capacity. And it's tricky because I can say that, but if you walk in there at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, there's not a lot of people there. But we walk in there at 3:30, 4:30, 5 o'clock, there's lots of people there. And so that perceived capacity, so anybody that works with crowds or events or whatever, especially in the Midwest rural, we don't like to be all tight and close together. So depending on the situation, if you just have rows of chair in a room, perceived comfortable capacity is really 80%. No one wants to be in there at 100% capacity,
Right.
So that's a little bit of the trick of getting that idea across. Of we have to serve people when we can serve people, and sometimes that's all at the same time. One of the silver linings of where our growth area has been in seniors made me nervous as we were growing of how painful is it, or are we going to be operation to serve them? But they can come in the middle of the day where we weren't as busy. So that's where we've become busy in the middle of the day and haven't changed as much in the evenings, and that's been a blessing just based on when they can come and when they want to come.
That's great. When you talked about the little person, the one little person potty, I found in working with bond issues that if you explain to a community, Kim Blazek did this over in Lake City, Pat and I did this when we were helping Fred Carroll all those years ago get a bond issue. The bond issue had failed 3-1. I think it was maybe 95, 96 in there.
Yeah.
That, Fred was like, let's go for it again, And the bond issue passed. And what's interesting in this, Mike, is no pool. We heard back from some people, no pool. I learned to swim in the lake and soak it, this kind of thing.
Yep.
Well, then the Y comes with a pool. And so, what I will tell you is I've learned in Wexford, Misaki, Osceola counties, if you explain to people specific reasons like that. We have one little person potty. We have the lifeguard room to train is this big. No.
Yeah, it's a shoebox.
A shoebox.
Yeah.
So there's somebody out there that's going to say we can get it better than that. Not even for their own passion, but just to support the community. I believe that. If you continue to tell those types of stories, because it's like you say, the Midwest way of I want my 3 feet. But also, we don't want little kids to have to march down the hallway to go to the restroom. And when they're getting excellent programming at the Y, and they're on the right path, and they've got an ancillary support system now as they turn into teenagers. I mean, I think that's one of the secrets as I look at the succession of the Y is how approachable you are. You know, the kids are like, you know, I talked to Mike, and I'm like, you mean like Mr. Kelso? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
People pop into your office just to chit chat all the time.
Yes.
They don't need an appointment, do they?
No.
They
I mean,
just
it helps.
They have
but,
to look for the green light.
Look for the green light. Yes. Yes. Rich knows. He walks
Okay.
past my green light. Green light means go. Come on in.
Okay.
A little sign that says it. You say about the progression of the Y, like, and people pop in my office. You know, before I was the executive director, I was the program director, and teens are my passion. I worked a lot with them. And I still have, there's a few groups here and there that pop in and see me, and that makes me happy to get out from behind my screen and my spreadsheet or whatever I'm doing. And there's one young man who's now taller than me. He's probably 6 foot tall. Who's in our comes to our teen center, who was in our preschool. You know, we've been open over 15 years.
Yes.
And his little group of friends, and I was like, we've been a part of his life for the majority of his life. You know, I knew him as a preschooler, knew him as a Camp Tirana camper, you know, when he was in elementary school, and now I think he's a freshman or sophomore in high school. He's one of our kids that has stuck and been through, you know, and his family, and he's got a younger sister, I think, and so that stuff makes me smile.
Right.
And, you know, I still think about, and you guys have been here forever, still remember Cadillac without the Y, and I still think that way at times, but there's a whole set of young parents, young adults, and teens that the Y has always been here in their memory, even though we're still kind of a young organization compared to some others. And so what's the generational impact of that? Like, we get to see it here and there, and it's nice.
It's huge. You know, I want to talk for a minute about your swimming program. I mean,
Yes.
one year you had a testimonial, you know, from a woman over in Lake City, and I think Lake City drove the charge on that, didn't they, with the swimming?
The Safety Around Water
Safety,
program,
yep,
yes.
yep,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah,
So-
Linda McGinnis, who's a big person in Lake City, she kind of helped us get the ball rolling with that a number of years ago. And we started with Lake City 4th grade students. And I believe it was this year or last year, we figured out that every Lake City student from 4th grade through the graduating seniors had been through that program now. So they can say every student from 4th grade on had the Safe Around Water program there in 4th grade. We even made up for the kids we missed during COVID the year after. We did 2 groups of them. But that got others on board. And we now have 6 different school districts, I think close to 400 kids are doing that from September to March. That Safe Around Water program, which is huge because, yeah, we can swim in the lakes. Yep, they do. But we get a little complacent about safety once our kids are over preschool and they get a little more independent. And that's when things start happening bad in the water. And so giving them survival and basic skills, that's what the Safe Around Water program, that isn't a strictly skill building program to be a swim team racer. That is a little bit of skill building, but it's situational. They jump in the water with their clothes on. We put a canoe in, and they learn what it's like to fall out of a canoe and how to get back in a canoe. All those scenarios that can happen that cause those bad accidents.
Right.
And that's the school district have really bought into it. And there's a little bit of skepticism in the first year or two because, you know, schools have a lot they've got to accomplish, and just the logistics of it of time are challenging. But once they do it, they see the value of the kids and the confidence building that the kid who's afraid of the water at the beginning of the 8-week session and has the confidence and the safety knowledge at the end, and they're like, this is great.
I can't tell you how many people I know that do not know how to swim. It is shocking to me how many people I know.
In Michigan, everybody's within 7 miles of a body of water or something like that. Or I may not be quoting that statistic exactly, but it's close. Everyone's close to water in this state. So
Right. You know, but if that wasn't a priority in your family, you know, maybe something else was, or in particular farming, you know, was there time to swim and that kind of stuff. And I've been, over the years, of course, I don't, you know, react where someone could, but I'm a little surprised when someone said, because, you know, especially when you're putting them on your boat, you know, where you've got to have life jackets no matter what. But when someone says, you know, how deep is this lake? I can't swim. You know, I've met people who can speak foreign languages that can't swim. You know what I mean? It's not a reflection of anything other than that clearly wasn't a priority.
Yeah.
And like anything,
Opportunity, culture of their family, culture of their community, whatever. But yeah, at some point someone's going to encounter water, and we want to, we're uniquely positioned to provide that and fulfill that need. So
right? Yeah.
Yep.
It's funny because the older we get, at least I've noticed this, I don't love learning new things, So I met a swimming instructor in Indian River. I was talking about someone I'm very close to who can't swim. And she's like, well, we're going to have to do some trust holds. And because she teaches people that are past 40 how to swim without embarrassing them. And she's telling me how not that it's funny, but I thought it's a totally different psychology teaching us later in life to do new things.
Yeah, us adults are more difficult to teach.
So we're set in our ways.
Old dog, new tricks, right?
Yep,
It's
exactly.
like learning euchre.
Yep.
Well, yeah.
So we are about halfway around the calendar to the big event in the fall.
Okay.
So how is that coming together? Is that the Dancing with the Y Stars?
Yes. So our committee just got going here earlier in the month. We've had a couple meetings. We're out in recruiting, nominating potential dancers right now. So that is all kind of hush hush. So we basically ask people to say yes to us before we say yes to them. We kind of gather enough of those and then strategically figure out cast and kick off the cast in first week of June.
And it's really fun because, and I know you owe a huge debt of gratitude to all of the mentors and the trainers,
the choreographers,
and the choreographers, right?
Yes, this what's helped this event keep going is one, the quality of production that Pat Goggin and Dan Smith took it to, and their years of being a part of it, and now it's just my job not to screw it up and keep getting good, talented people as part of the
just
crew.
Make you look good, right?
Yeah, because it's not really my jam, but I love the result of it. But we've got a great committee of people who are great at that. I think if we didn't have the Landing Dance Academy, and that's a really vigorous, great resource for the size of the community that we are, and the Footlighters and how that has really gotten strong the last few years. Both those groups behind the scenes and out front really help us out a lot. So that's our local talent that really makes that event work, that they keep working with us there.
So we're about a couple of months away from finding out who your cast will be.
So
for this year.
the public will really start seeing it mid-June and really broadly July, and then the event's the second Saturday of October 11th.
So I have a funny story about the great Sally Goggin. I'm telling you, every year we say to these dancers, you're going to want her to come and watch you practice, because you might think you're at a 10, but you really might be at a 6. And she can get you to a 10.
Yes.
I'm telling you, she can get anybody to a 10, And so when you see the before and after, when she mentions, like, this was a little off, but we worked it through, and she'll just sit back, and she has a sweatshirt that says "Theater is my sport," and it's so true. You could take her to the NFL of theater, and she would shine.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, we're very thankful to have Sally and a lot of other talented people.
One thing we didn't cover, and you mentioned this before we got on the air, even though we're not supposed to talk about stuff before we open up the microphones.
We're not.
But you mentioned that there's going to be an additional carrot during the Cadillac Festival of Races this year.
That's huge.
So that's been an event that's been in the community a long time. It got passed off to us in 2020, and we've been trying to build it back up by adding a couple more events each year. We're taking a big leap this year. We're adding a Boston Marathon qualifying marathon race around the lake. And so that's huge. And it's the course was certified years ago and it got expired, but we're getting it renewed. And this has been the vision of Dr. Chris Krantz, who's been on our board for a number of years, and he saw the opportunity to get that event passed off to us and said, hey, this is the longest running 10K. We got to keep this going. And he knew there was a Boston qualifying course there before, and so we're getting that back. And not only give opportunity to people locally, but we're working with the Cadillac Visitors Bureau, and that's going to help draw some people into the community too. So we're excited to build that up as well.
Awesome. Who would have ever thought a Boston qualifying marathon in Cadillac.
Yeah.
That's progress, my friend. And
Yeah.
good job, Dr. Kranitz.
Yeah.
We got to give Chris a shout out too,
Yes.
don't we?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, Mike, again, thanks for all you do for the community. We appreciate you. My two kids who spend the afternoon there after school appreciate you and everything that the Y means to the community, and we appreciate your time. And you're welcome anytime to come back and give us updates.
A bright light, this man.
Thank you. Appreciate you both.
Mike Kelso, Executive Director of the Cadillac Area YMCA, our guest this morning on Cadillac Unscripted. Join us next week, same time, same station, for some more local chat sponsored by Independent Bank on 107.9 CDY.